Welcome to Care More, Be Better, a podcast for people like you who care about the social impact of conscious companies and everyday heroes. Hear inspiring stories from those who put people and planet before profit and personal gain. You'll learn how you can make a difference, vote with your dollars, and get involved today. Here's your host, Corinna Bellizzi.
Hello, fellow do-gooders and friends. I'm your host, Corinna Bellizzi, an activist and cause marketer who's passionate about social impact and sustainability. We have an incredible guest to share with you today, one that puts giving at the center of everything he does. He's worked with A-list celebrities and musicians, and he's excited to talk to us today about what it takes to move people to act. Before we meet him, I have a favor to ask. Did you know that there are a few things that you can do to support any show that you love without spending a dime? As a listener-supported show, every bit helps us reach more people and spread more social good. So first, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen. You can download episodes too. Don't just stream them, because all of these actions help us to climb charts so more people can see our content. Visit our newly updated website, caremorebebetter.com. You can send me a voice message just by clicking that microphone in the bottom right. You can comment on any episode. You can write us a review right there on the site. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. There's a pop-up form and a sidebar. And you can always spend a little and support us a lot. Visit our show support page for all the details of things that you can do to make a difference. After we cover show costs, we make donations to a different charity each quarter. Okay, let's meet our amazing guest. Today, I am joined by Grady Lee. He's an inspiring individual who puts giving at the center of his life's purpose. He's been in the social impact space for 25 years, so I'm sure we can all learn a lot from him. He's the co-founder and CEO of Give to Get, a social impact company that goes beyond corporate do-gooding to unleash the power of brands and people. Grady, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, as we get started, I understand that you studied Romance Languages and Lit in your undergrad at Princeton, no less, and then dove headfirst into the world of business for social good. So what compelled you on that journey?
Well, the Romance Languages bit at Princeton was something that I fell into. I started, learning Italian when I got there in freshman year at 9 a.m., which was the 9 a.m. part wasn't a good idea, but the Italian department was warm and welcoming and fun. And when it came time to choose a major, they throw a big spaghetti dinner and they say, "Hey, that's a good major." I said, "Sounds like a good major." So I just decided to focus on that and was able to really look at, Western civilization almost through the eyes of Italy, from opera and architecture and wars, politics, the whole thing. And so it really just gave me a little bit of a playground to learn how to think, learn how to do what I wanted to do, and explore things on my own. And the other thing I think it freed me up was that there really wasn't a direct path from that major. There was nothing I was supposed to do next, and so I ended up going out to Colorado and working at a ski resort in Telluride. I had a friend, an old roommate who grew up there, and so we went out there for the summer, and then a friend of mine and I looked at each other one night and said, "I'll stay if you stay." And then there we were for the next 4 or 5 years. And from there is when I started my kind of unplanned journey into the social impact space for music. But it was that freedom and that loose kind of foundation that I credit with the kind of ability to go out there to Telluride and get off the private school track, and all of a sudden, you go out there and your blinders open up a bit about what a job is and what you're supposed to do. And there were people who were ski patrolling in one season and they travel somewhere else, and they were a fly fishing guide for the summer, and I just could not believe that was an actual job. And so when it came to, at some point, my friend Toby Garrett and I started talking about this idea together. It just kind of became, sure, let's go try it, see what happens.
Well, I love that. I mean, I also have a background in anthropology and love of the languages with French and my history, but ended up in business. So I think
Right.
sometimes, your paths aren't always as direct as you might think they would be.
Correct.
So, yeah, I would love to talk about the motivation to really work in the field of social impact. And in many cases, people get their start when they're in the midst of tragedy because it's an incredible motivator. So, I know we spoke a little bit about this. 9/11 is just in the rearview mirror a little bit, the 20-year anniversary. It's hard to believe it's been that long. But really, how did you work to ensure that with RockCorp, you were able to engage activists, celebrities, and musicians to support communities that were impacted? I'd just love for you to talk about that journey.
Sure. So we started this a little bit before 9/11 when I went to Colorado. Toby Garrett, my current co-founder and kind of longtime friend, we would have people go clean up the river, build trails, do the rest of it, and Telluride, and then we would get the whole town together to celebrate on Main Street with a concert. And honestly, I got into it because I thought the shows were awesome, and we wanted to do great shows, and everybody volunteering for the show made the show that much better and more interesting. So, but it was a nonprofit at that time. They were, the pets.com. It was insane internet boom. Nobody was thinking about social impact or doing good in any form. It was just a big gold rush. So we kind of shelved it, and I went to LA to go to business school and get into the film business because I'd been curious about that. And then while I was there, 9/11 happened, and I think the stories of 9/11. I had some friends in New York City, and the stories of them being able to go down to ground zero or help the helpers, setting up barbecue and lunch for first responders, and all of that community building that was going on out there. When you're not in LA or when you're not in New York and you're out in Los Angeles where I was, there was nothing to do. You weren't being asked to do anything. And there was the connection points you had with each other it was a weird, the world froze for a minute. And then you had to really figure out how to build your own community because that feeling was so good, but there was no opportunity to exercise it. And so we, with some friends from the UCLA Business School and the Film School, and Toby, my old friend, we kind of dusted off this idea as a nonprofit. We opened it up as a for-profit opportunity for brands to engage with customers and consumers, and we spent a couple of years trying to hone it and refine it, and then finally Boost Mobile in 2004. Or at the end of 2004, beginning of 2005, said, okay, we'll do it. And we did a show in Radio City Music Hall with 5,000 16 to 24-year-olds, all of whom volunteered 4 hours. I think we organized about 100 volunteer events throughout New York City over 2 months. And then we filled Radio City. We put it on MTV2, and we had Kanye West and Fat Joe and others. And it was really a celebration of a community coming together to help itself. It was a lot of times the volunteers was the first time in Radio City Music Hall. It was the first time they saw Kanye or T.I. or all their heroes. And it was really a mobilizing kind of moment to see it on that scale in that city. And it really set us down a path of trying to set up the system so that the private sector could benefit from social action. And we ended up taking that kind of internationally, and it's kind of framed the work we've done ever since. So I got into it because it was cool and it was fun and it was awesome. And all of a sudden it became powerful. And I think that move kept me in it over time. We have talked about maybe doing something else, changing our minds, switching directions, but the world keeps spinning this direction of people wanting to do something, wanting to engage, and the private sector wanting to find ways to engage. And so there's always something for us to do. So we've been lucky in that regard.
So let's talk about that for a minute because I mean, it sounds to me you're leveraging the desire of people to essentially volunteer towards a greater good for a large group of people who have some sort of common interest, in this case, music. So, have you taken this to something other than music? And is there a way that corporations can, in your mind, really make a difference by leveraging this sort of either event planning or something similar?
Yeah, I think that the desire, the concert just became really the pitch to cut through the noise. So, hey, you want to see Lady Gaga at the Manchester Apollo in the UK? Well, then you have to sign up here and volunteer 4 hours at one of these volunteer projects. That was the initial reason for the shows, because sometimes the messenger is more important than the message, right? And
Mhm.
when kind of these cultural icons say, "Hey, I don't care about your money today. We're going to go out and do some work, and then we'll get a ticket and celebrate." That's a different ask than, "Hey, please come volunteer. We need your help. There's a lot of problems." The pitch here was, this will be the coolest thing you do all summer. So let's go at it from that angle, and using pop culture and using all of these things to try to put a different patina on it, rather than something that you need to do. It turns into something that I just want to do, and that has shifted over time. I've watched it. The right kind of volunteer experience really is its own reward. And when we were done with the shows, the research showed that more than half of the people who came, they'd never volunteered before at all. And then about 80% of them said they would volunteer again after the show without a ticket. More than a third actually come back to the nonprofit we introduced them to. So it really did set people down a path of, oh, I have some power, I have some juice here, and so where can I leverage it? I'll go back to that organization that was really cool, and I had a good time with. And I think when we were working with brands, so in the U.S. it was Boost Mobile, and then we moved into Europe with Orange, which is a mobile telco provider. They were at first talking about the activation or the concert, the RockCorp gig, matched with their brand profile, and they saw a huge lift in brand love from their clients, from their customers. First intention to buy, all of those brand metrics really went up 20, 30, 40, 50%, which is why they kept coming back and doing more. But the surprising thing to them anyway was the impact it had on its own people. The teams, these marketing teams, loved working on this. And we got those teams to go volunteer for their ticket to see the show. There was no freebies. And so it really became apparent to us that this kind of social impact tool was a way to galvanize internal teams of people as well as mobilize external teams, and the brand and the employer get all the credit for it because they're facilitating the whole thing. And I think this was about the time, this is maybe 2008, 9, 10, all of a sudden who you were as an employer became almost as important as who you were as a consumer brand. So your employer brand became valuable. And so we started engaging kind of employee engagement efforts where we're really just an organized effort to help and to make the world a little better, has enormous rewards for groups of people and how people feel about work and their colleagues, and how they feel about their own power. And so when we look at kind of brands now leveraging social impact as a tool, we talk a little bit now, we're turning social impact from an act of charity into an act of competitive advantage. Now, how do you use your ESG, CSR, social impact platforms to attract customers, to attract the right employees, to talk to regulators, to talk to investors? All of that is now a kind of a de-risking of companies, because they get social license to operate. Their employees are demanding it. Their customers have been demanding it for years. And they really are seeing the need to find a way to do this in a way that drives their business. They're not charities. It's not philanthropy. It's got to be integrated into the business and operationalized. And we're finding different ways to do that with a lot of different people.
So one of the things this brings to mind for me is just there are many budding activists working for corporations that may or may not be collaborating with you right now. And this sounds like a really great way for them to get involved and try on working with a particular charity, whether or not they know that they're going to love it in the beginning. So I'd love to know what sorts of programs you're presently running, And I'm a little jealous that I haven't seen any in my area in Santa Cruz County. So perhaps you can talk about where these are presently operating and where you might see more in the future.
Sure. Well, interesting. COVID kind of, when you're in the live event, kind of live mobilization business, COVID
Yes.
really finds a way to punch you right in the face. And so for the last, year and a half, people have not wanted to congregate. And so we really had to flip to more of a virtual interaction, kind of like this. And so it's hard to scale kind of one-on-one digital interactions like this. It's hard to get a group of 100 or even thousands of employees to go point to point with someone and mentor them and talk to a kid or talk to someone looking for a job or a lot of this kind of teaching and mentoring that a lot of people were doing a year and a half, 2 years ago. They thought this was the best way to go about it. We wanted to create a group experience that was virtual yet physical, and everyone was having a shared experience, a collective experience. And so we designed these, we designed kits that we would send individually to everyone's homes. They would get on a Zoom or a Teams or a WebEx like this, and they would have 20, 30 people. They would all open the box at the same time. We'd have the nonprofit on explaining why this was important and what was happening. We'd have one of our facilitators kind of explaining. Everyone would put it together. There'd be dad jokes. Maybe there's cocktails. And then they would put it back in the box and send it to the nonprofit who was wanting this material, expecting it, helped us design what it is. And so it really created a way for people to connect, when everyone was so isolated. And so, over the last year, we've done about, 15,000 volunteers and throughout the US and globally. We've done this overseas because now your European teams can connect with your North American teams via this mechanic, and we send them all the same thing. And then they send the results out to a local nonprofit that matters to them. So it's kind of virtual, so it's nowhere and it's everywhere at the same time. Now that people are starting to come out of their caves and come out of the come out of our COVID cocoons, we're starting to talk to people about kind of mobilizations where employees live and work. We are also talking to some cities about how do we bring this RockCorp type mechanic back and kind of celebrate people coming back together, helping each other, and kind of coming together in that way. And so I think in 22, people will start to get comfortable again, at least in the private sector setting, asking people to come back and offering opportunities to come back. That will start to come a little more regular. Now it's still a virtual conversation, and we're lucky we were able to kind of thread the line between this group collective effort while still being alone.
Yeah, well, I mean, COVID has not made anything easy for us when it comes to gathering. I did see a concert online where they were essentially in isolation bubbles in
Yeah.
and in front of a stage and everything, and basically being at a concert almost like you would have been in the past, but with your own contained little oxygen bubble. I didn't know if
Yeah.
you tried anything like that.
No, we haven't. I can't remember the name of the band that tried. I saw that, and it
Is it
really
like
fit the
Flaming
brand.
Lips or something?
Yeah, Flaming Lips. It really fit that band and that audience. But that was more of a one-off. I think the big kind of the Live Nations AEGs, they just said we're going to hold off until we can get back safely. There were some outdoor, even Dave Chappelle was doing some comedy outdoors. There were some people doing small spread
Yeah, in a
out things.
cornfield, I think.
Yes, exactly. But to get companies to brand it and go do it, it was a whole nother matter altogether. And the other side of it is there was the need at that point was, people needed funding. Organizations their fundraisers were getting killed. So a lot of companies shifted a lot of their activation and volunteering budgets towards straight philanthropy to prop up a lot of these nonprofits who could not kind of keep the lights on in a COVID environment. So there was a lot of things happening at that point. And I'm just glad we're getting to the other side of it. I'd say we're on the other side, but I think we're getting there.
So I'm curious to know what's next for you and Give to Get. First of all, I love the concept. It reminds me a little bit of Buy One, Give One and Masami Sato's project, because she was trying to create something early on where she would offer companies the perspective of, hey, you don't have to make a long wait or a big ask in order to start giving back. You can do it small and start small. So
Mhm.
what you're doing is kind of the reverse of that. Almost, you give to get something, and the get is something that you want, like a concert or an event, or maybe it's a personalized ability to connect with someone that's famous. I've seen several movie stars of late, like Jennifer Lawrence was doing a wine tasting, like, come have a wine tasting with me and 3 friends and enter this lottery to do it and all that jazz. They
That's
weren't
right.
really doing those things necessarily for charity, but it seemed like a really great model for something like that. So I wonder what you see coming next for you and for Give to Get.
Yeah, so the key, the trick was to get people to volunteer for something money can't buy, right? So if you could just go buy something for $30 versus go volunteer for it, most people just find a way to get $30 and go buy it. So there needed to be that golden kind of exclusivity to the whole thing. So I think for us, we see us kind of marching down 3 areas, then we've got a fourth that is a little bit of a wild hair, and we'll see how that goes. But I think the one is, I think with the great resignation that has happened over the last summer and 6 months, there is a need to get companies. There's a talent war going on. People are trying to find culture. Some companies have gone 100% virtual with a cloud HQ, and so they have to find new ways to develop culture and develop cohesion and productivity amongst their workers. And I think social impact is a way to do that. So we are, through COVID and through the virtual stuff, we were able to get a lot of new types of clients. So as people start to get in person, as this virtual thing continues, we see this employer brand or mobilizing culture as a big kind of pillar of the business going forward. The next thing is we want to get these concerts and these live events going again. And we've got 2 in the offing that we're talking to companies about how do we start to mobilize people, how to inside the company and outside the company to go do these big, high profile local celebrations. And then third, we're getting into a little bit of the ESG world where, environmental, social, and governance, where this is the latest thing that companies are starting to bucket all of their social impact work. And environmental sustainability has been around for a while. Everybody's trying to get to net neutral, maybe even a regenerative approach to their environmental sustainability. And governance is fairly straightforward, but the S, the social, is a bit murky. So we are looking at, based on our history of working with marketing departments, HR departments, CSR departments, meetings and events, and others within an organization, we are trying to find ways to benchmark the S of ESG. So we've created a data platform called Social Marks, which we are building out the algorithm to try to show against a competitive set how a company's doing, how it is investing its assets into making the lives of their people better and the people in the communities around them, or where they operate at least. And once you put those in a competitive set, then you can say, hey, I'm not doing as well as I thought I was, or they're killing us on this. And so it's a way to spur action and to see where you are, because nobody knows where we are. It's really hard to figure out apples to apples what everyone's doing. And so we have tried to put our 25, 30 years of experience to work, figuring out how to lay that out for someone so a manager knows where they need to invest next. And so, between kind of mobilizing people, employees, mobilizing consumers, doing this data and a little bit of strategic work, we think that that has the opportunity to keep us busy. I think there are a couple of wild hairs that we're wrestling with. One is, you mentioned different ways to get people to earn. We talked about this NFT model. Maybe there's a way to earn NFTs, and so that's those kinds of tokens. That is something that can be levered for social good. Maybe there are kind of impact funds based on some of the data and strategy that we do. So I think, there after all this time of being boots on the ground and seeing what people are doing globally, seeing what's possible, seeing bad ideas and good ideas, we think we have a lot to say on the direction of all of this. And we're starting to kind of put those pieces together so that we can help, companies and the investor set really make better decisions when it comes to social impact.
Well, I love that, and I love the focus in particular on that S, which I'm sure doesn't surprise you, given the
No.
leaning of my show, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that this gets me thinking about overall is when you start out and when you got this thing rolling the first time around. I guess this is something that's been percolating since we started talking, but I just want to know what it was like that first, let's say, event that you organized, how it came together, who you worked with, how you contacted those A-list celebrities to get them involved. Like, I think there's really something there. That story could be truly inspiring to our audience.
Yeah, so there are a couple of, there's all these hidden networks kind of in the world, right? And if you don't know them, it seems a little magical how this stuff happens. But, the RockCorp story, there's 7 of us who started RockCorp. And, one of them was a business school friend of mine, Stephen Green. He's still running RockCorp in the UK. He and I were kind of wrestling, and the first key piece was getting the brand involved, getting the money down, because no one believed you till you had the money. You couldn't go talk to an artist. You could go talk to the nonprofit community, but they're not listening until they're sure something's going to happen. So developing the brand message really took the most time. So once you get the corporate or the money side together, or at least close, then it started to go. It's in New York City anyway. Started to go two kind of parallel paths. One was we had to go to the nonprofit community and say, hey, we're going to now get 5,000 people to volunteer. We're going to organize the projects, because I know that you guys as nonprofits, you're not sitting around with projects not being filled. So a lot of people in that nonprofit world thought we were crazy trying to organize so many volunteer events. But with our time in Colorado, we knew that we could pull that off. And so we started we met with the city. We had a great, Lisa Lepson, our old business school friend, kind of started getting on the phone and say, hey, I want to bring 100 people to you. What do you need done? And so we would slowly build out this calendar of opportunities for people to volunteer. And then we had to say, well, now wait a minute, we have to somehow get people to register and put them in there. And so we developed a website and, developed a system to get people to sign up, register, and show up and get a ticket. So that was kind of how that sausage had to get made operationally, because the theory was you had to sell out the show. We were like, I'm not doing Radio City and having half the people there. That would be a mess. So you have to fill every seat, but I couldn't fill every seat before the last day. So I couldn't be sold out for 2 weeks, and kind of the momentum would slow down. So the goal was to give the last ticket on the last day. And so we figured out a way to do that. And that was a big kind of learning process. And meanwhile, there's a whole other team. One of our partners was Chris Robinson. He's a music video director, film director, really one of the most beloved kind of hip hop rap music video directors ever. And so he was able to make some phone calls, and the brands would have relationships with artists, and so we'd start talking to management and agents about scheduling and what we were trying to do. And, and money, you've got to pay them. It costs them money to leave the house. So there are no freebies here. And so you start doing all of those 2 things together, getting the projects up, starting to get one piece of talent at a time, one piece of talent then brings another, then brings another, and brings another. And in New York, we started with no talent at all when we first kind of started to recruit volunteers. But Radio City Music Hall was a talent. People, that was big. They knew it was going to be big. And so that was our first bit of talent, just booking that theater, which was no picnic, because it's a busy, big place. And so you slowly kind of get these pieces together, but you do have to launch without having it all figured out. And you just assume that you can do it. And you've done it before. So we were, it was kind of more exciting than nerve-wracking. And then slowly it starts to get its own momentum. About halfway through that first summer, towards the back end of August, it really started to take off. And, for a show of 5,000 people, we ended up having 20, 30,000 people sign up wanting to go. And we would sign up a certain amount. We'd assume a certain amount would not show up. And then we did just a ridiculous amount of work in New York City and the 5 boroughs during that summer. And then, got all these volunteers into Radio City Music Hall and turned the lights on, and there they were. So, you never know till it's done. But a lot of those pieces you had to muscle into place and kind of have some faith that they would land.
Wow. Well, it sounds like it was a lot of work, but also a lot of fun.
Oh,
That's
man,
really great.
nothing better.
So I have a series of rapid fire questions for you just for fun.
Okay.
And I think also to inspire our audience. I'd love for you to tell us about your first mentor.
It's got to probably have to be my mom, frankly, a single mom. Kind of, she and I was an only child, so it was just me and her. And so kind of growing up with watching her, kind of work as hard as she did and provide me the freedom to do what I was doing is certainly a model that I haven't forgotten. So I would have to say that's what comes to mind first.
Okay. Wow. So what about your most recent mentor, whether or not they know that that's who they are to you?
One of my partner, Toby Garrett, and I have been in this a long time. And he and I have this rhythm when I'm up if he's down and he's up if I'm down. And so watching him kind of, get stubborn on kind of that this is going to be a success and watching him navigate and watching him be passionate about all of this is definitely something I look to and lean on and have for a long time. So, that is really, part of why we keep doing this is working with each other. And so I really like how he is passionate about real actionable work. And so anytime I get a little airy-fairy or get a little intellectual about things, he'll look at me and say, okay, what are we going to do? Let's do something.
Brings you back.
Right. And so do something. Cool. What are we going to do? So, I think he and I have been doing this for such a long time. We've been a lot of times outside of the mainstream and kind of have to look for strength from each other. So I'd probably lean on him as that mentor at the moment.
Well, I'm sure he'd be very complimented to hear that. Now, if you had any moment in your life that you could repeat, what would it be?
I I would repeat my 4 years of college because I had a great time. I would repeat that first RockCorp show at Radio City Music Hall when the balcony of Radio City was bouncing because everyone was jumping up and down. I thought, oh my God, I hope these balconies hold. And I'm sure there are a few moments I would repeat with my son, being in the mix here. But professionally, I think that first Radio City Music Hall show was something I would do again and again.
I think I got that from your first description, but yeah, something quite amazing. Now, if you could go back and change any one event in your life, what would it be and why?
Go back and change any one event. There are 1,000 little things. I think if I could change, when we decided when the decision to get more into the employer side of the equation, I think I would have done that sooner. I think I saw a lot of potential there, and we were so busy going to Japan and South Africa and others, but I think I would have pivoted a little more quickly into the employer side of this equation, just from a business standpoint. And I probably waited a little long to do that, frankly. So I think if I kind of, from a business standpoint, I'd probably start this kind of wider kind of social impact work a lot sooner, because I think the need was there even before we decided to make the leap.
Wow. Yeah. Now, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
To fly. I would like to fly. For no
That's
reason other
mine.
than I would like to
I
go
should have
places.
prefaced it with that.
I just want to fly. So if there's if you want me to tailor that a bit, but that's always I wanted as a kid. I just want to personally fly.
Yeah, I wanted to be Superman, so I'm right there
Yeah.
with you. If you could solve one problem using that superpower, what would it be?
Oh, well, goodness. If I could solve one problem in the world right now, it would be I would focus on energy. If I could find a way to figure out a way to power the world without ruining it, I
Mm.
think that would solve a lot of problems. So I'm kind of fascinated by energy. I don't know how flying would solve that, but I would try. I would put my effort. If I were 20, I would put my effort towards energy. I think alternative energy is really exciting these days.
And lastly, given your connection to music, I wonder if you could have a specific theme song, what would it be?
Um, um, I would do the this is I don't it's dating myself, the theme to Welcome Back, Cotter, um, which is a welcome back. It's good to have you back around. I've always loved kind of going back to old places, seeing old friends, and doing things I used to do. So it's such a comfortable tune for me, and it reminds me of a time. But I think as we go out in our adventures and as we go try to make our marks, coming back home, coming back to the people you care about, coming back to your old friends is such a great feeling to me that it's almost reason enough to go out on adventures so that you have the feeling of coming home.
Well, I love that. Coming home. Now, if there was any question that I haven't asked that you wish I had, what would it be? And if not, what would you like to leave our audience with?
It's been a great conversation. I'm not sure there's a question. I think that the reason of why sometimes I ask myself, why have I done this for so long? I mean, there's a lot of people who not a lot of people have these 25-year careers in one thing. They bounce around. Certainly, more recently, some of our parents' generation, they were at Shell Oil in Houston, Texas, for 30 years, 40 years, and I think for people who kind of would watch this and who maybe listen to it, the the kind of fueling kind of engine that keeps coming back or keeps us coming back to do it is watching people find and exercise their real power. And I think when the world's kind of coming at you from a lot of different angles, you don't know quite what to do, and you're not sure your worth or your value in the world, and everyone's trying to change the world, and it's all seems very daunting. But the power and the kind of energy you get from trying to change the world around you within arm's reach almost is really a spectacular thing. And when you can create kind of an environment or an opportunity for people to fully realize themselves and to fully see what's possible in and of themselves, that is something that you just want to get back to again and again and again. And so, as far as doing a career in this, it's no real picnic. You got to be ready for the fight. But I think, Gwen Ifill once said, the world doesn't get better by itself. And it's going to take people to do this. So the more you can multiply your efforts by unlocking the power of other people, you'll just want to keep going. And it's really just been one of the joys of my life is to watch people kind of celebrate that in themselves and want to do it again. So I applaud anybody. I applaud you for doing this. I don't have the guts to do what you're doing. And I think people who kind of spend time watching folks kind of who are kind of doing this, there's no magic to it. There's no mystery to it. It's just going out there and getting your hands dirty and having as much fun with it as you can.
Well, you put the fun in the activism. So I just want to thank you for that because heck, if I could go work one of those shows to get access to some of my favorite musicians, I would jump
You'd
at
love
it.
it. I'm telling you, you'd love it. Nobody doesn't like it. It's awesome. So next time we have one, Corinna, you're coming.
Yeah, San Francisco Bay Area, I'm there.
Sure, no problem.
So, where can our listeners go to find out more about you and also the work that you're doing with Give to Get?
Yeah, givetoget.com, GIVETOGET.com is where kind of our stuff is. And you can see different examples of how we activate companies in different ways. And we'll be making some changes with our kind of data tool and our social marks and the like. So there's a lot of changes coming. But for now, that's the best place. And, Grady.Lee@givetoget.com if anybody's got a specific question, we're always open to having those conversations.
Well, that's great. I will be sure to include that as well as your website and other resources we mentioned in show notes, as always. And I just want to thank you so much for your time today, Grady. This has been a lot of fun.
Excellent, Corinna. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Now, listeners, it's time for me to invite you to act. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be as simple as sharing this podcast with somebody in your community and telling them about Give to Get and Care More Be Better. So I encourage you to do that. You can always visit our action page on caremorebebetter.com. There are recommendations for things you can do to make a difference around the globe in your communities, also companies and charities that we would encourage you to support. Thank you, listeners, now and always, for being a part of this pod and this community, because together we really can do so much more. We can care more. We can be better. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Care More, Be Better, a podcast for social good. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share with your friends to help us reach more people and spread more social good.
Hello, fellow do-gooders and friends. We just finished our interview with Grady Lee, and I wanted to go ahead and show you his website. I've still got Grady here, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. So here we have Give to Get. This is your website. So help me navigate through here. If I'm an activist, I come to your page and I want to know how to get involved. Where do I go?
Sure. So you can kind of see the general gist of it right there. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a little bit of our, the first things people kind of want from us is build a roadmap, activate my employees, and measure results. So as we build out these different pieces of the company, the roadmap we have found, I'll just go through one of each of those three. And the roadmap, you can click on that. We talk about the strategy work that we do, and it's really, we call it building a compass. Because we think that, within a lot of companies, there's a lot of strategies within organizations. There's corporate strategy, brand strategy, HR strategy, community strategy. And we have found that aligning all of those into some kind of bearing for the terrain is what most people need. Most people don't need a separate strategy. They need to do better with the ones they have. And so our strategy work is to try to find that centering idea, and we build a roadmap over the next couple of months to help you execute on it. So that's the first bit, is figuring out what to do. And then the second bit, you can go into solutions there. You go back to the homepage and you can activate employees. There's a lot of different ways that we do that. And these are our virtual social impact experiences that you can see. If you scroll down, there's a little bit of explanation of how we're mobilizing virtually, who we've done it with, and kind of what it all means, what the experience is, what you can expect, the types of work, kind of how it all works. So it kind of really tries to lay it out as best as possible, the different types of things you can do, what it costs, and then, go talk to somebody to see if it fits.
Wow, cool.
And then the results. This is where we start getting into the social marks things. We're going to get into outlining social marks, which is our data platform. We have a partnership with Pro-Social Valuation, which I urge everybody to get to. It's a way of measuring the social value of social interactions. It's a really great tool. And so measuring the impact of what you're doing, measuring yourself against your competitors. There's a lot of opportunities around measurement that aren't being done. But those are the three big things that come to us. And in the solutions, or if you want to go to work up there, this is where our case studies are. So you can start to see a lot of different ways of at-home employee engagement, different types of employee engagement we do. There's some brand engagements. There's some videos in there of some of our concerts. And so there's a lot of opportunities to kind of see where we activate around, meetings and events and live shows and all the rest of it. So there's a lot to see in there.
Wow. Which was your favorite event of all time? And if it was still the New York event, I understand.
My favorite concert that we did was in Los Angeles, and we had the amazing thing we had Korn, which is a hard kind of rock band, and they had done an acoustic. They've been doing acoustic for like 18 months, and this was their first live, plugged in show in a long time. And then on the same show, we had the Game, which is a serious hip hop star in LA. And we were at the Kodak Theater or the Dolby where they have the Oscars. And so we had people signed up. Our projects filled within 30 seconds of putting them up because everybody wanted to see these two artists. And we had other artists in between, but we had a DJ. His name was Clinton Sparks. And we said, Clinton, this is what you got to do. I got hard rock fans in here and I got hard hip hop rap fans in here. You got to find a way to stitch this whole thing together so that half of them don't leave when the other, when their band comes on. And whatever he did as a DJ, as a house DJ up there, he stitched that room together in a way that was spectacular. And so you see all those different types of fans really celebrating that music of stuff they don't listen to all the time, but they understood kind of the emotion of it, and they had all earned their way in. So it was such an incredible audience that I really hadn't seen another show like that, and I hadn't seen anything stitched together quite so well. So I don't even know if we have some video of that around, but man, I still think about that show.
Well, there are a few bands I've met in my time, and one of them is Korn.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so they attended Sundance. I was at Sundance in both 2009 and 2010, really just working to support Nordic Naturals business, and we were doing these gifting suites to connect with celebrities. I got to meet Chaz Palminteri, Jamie Oliver. There was like a couple of other randoms, Gael Bernal Garcia, a few others, but the band Korn came through, and I was like, wait a minute, I recognize you guys.
Those guys, they're smart guys. I like them. Yeah,
I have a fun set of pictures with them, and they're crazy, going and stuff like that.
That's what they do. That's good.
It was fun. I would have loved to have been there too, because I think there's an interesting connection you can make between hip hop and really hard metal. You pull it together in such a way it can be like really good. So that must have been really fun.
Yeah, it was something.
Well, congratulations. With that, I want to thank you again. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the interview and also this tour of your website. This will be part of our bonus content, so I'll put that out to our community in another way. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you.
And listeners, you can go ahead and visit Grady's website, Give to Get. It's real simple to find. I will include that in show notes again. And I'm just getting acclimated with this new platform, so you'll have to bear with me as I learn it. There's his website right there on screen for you. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day and get out there and do some good. You could volunteer for a company like Grady's or any number of others that's doing incredible work. Thank you.